Yes.
As our guest, what's your topic now that we've gotten through the craziness of fruits?
Yeah, after that one, I'm going to bring us down a little bit.
No, you're going to bring it up. You're going to bring up the level of conversation.
Bring it up. Trans rights. Topical thing. Last Friday, as of this recording, the White House put out an executive order that any public school that didn't let students go to the bathroom that they identify as will have public funding pulled.
Sure.
So this very quickly became a point of contention in my little town of Iowa.
But you're all hippies, you said. You all meditate and stuff.
It's very split. It's either you're a hippie or a roo, as we call them.
Roo,
for short for guru.
Okay. Oh.
Okay.
I think I'd like your town a lot. I just want you to know that. Sounds very relaxing.
So it's split
except
there.
for the trans fucking war that's about to break out.
I will pee wherever I want to pee. There is no fucking state law. I peed in the women's bathroom so many times. It's ridiculous. I did it like 2 days ago. Sorry, continue. And the family bathroom. The family bathroom is a fucking bomb. No one's running around. You can't smell or hear someone else shitting. It's great.
You got the ruse.
Sorry, informed today.
There, and then we got like it's that town, and then all around it,
the squares,
farm area.
Oh, okay. Oh, the hillbillies.
Sure.
Okay.
My public school friends will not be happy with that. But
you don't have to see them anymore. You're homeschooled now. They're dead to you. Move on.
So this specifically at my public school, which is obviously a lot bigger than the small little private school that we have.
Sure.
Immediately, I believe they went for a school thing for like band and choir. I came back. One of the trans students' cars was vandalized. I think tires were like slashed and stuff. Just a horrible, horrible shit.
Mm-hmm.
This like tension only got worse throughout the week, where people were like wearing I think everyone was like, okay, we're gonna wear black armbands to signify that we are pro trans rights. The people who were really against that had very much missed the mark, and they decided instead of that they're going to wear red armbands.
Great color combo, black and red.
Yeah. So I think they realized their slight miscalculation the next day because they wore white shirts. And
Jesus.
It was bad. It was bad.
What the? How do you make that kind of mistake? You're like, we're gonna wear red armbands.
I know. That's
on our white shirts. Maybe put a
stand
white
up
dot
for what's
on it.
right.
Yeah.
Might as well wear brown shirts at that point.
Yeah, then they're like students suspended for wearing like just straight up offensive stuff, like saying like I think birth gender is right gender, like sharpied onto a white shirt. It got bad.
Yeah.
And then everyone else wore blue shirts and to stand with all the trans students. And
how many trans students are ballparking?
I know 3.
Okay.
There's probably a few more. Actually, I know 4.
See,
but yeah, I kind of want your guys' opinion on that. I have a feeling that we're all kind of on the same page here, but just because there is ultimately a reasonable argument to have for like specifically bathroom things of like the mother with the 9-year-old daughter being like, I don't.
Yeah, I mean you're referencing the news story. What is it? It's not North Carolina. What is it North Carolina? And how they're trying to are they still trying to pass the law where you have to go to wherever it was vetoed? Okay.
Yeah. I think so.
Sorry, I'm not as up to speed on the subject as I can, but it is tough. It's a complex issue, but I mean, the thing is, like, the thing that's enlightening to me is that 3 people who are transgendered, and you are 17 years old. When I was 17 years old, I didn't know any gay people. There was not even one person who felt confident coming out in high school. Now we knew people that I was in theater and band, so it was a little bit more of an accepting culture, and so you knew people that you would. There were assumptions that could be made, and you weren't non-judgmental, but you were like, okay, I'm pretty sure that person's one way or another, and eventually maybe they'll be able to come out, and lo and behold, a few of my friends actually, when they got into college, a lot more of an accepting culture actually came out of the closet and told everyone they were gay, and I was like, great, I'm glad you're happy. But what's crazy to me is that as hard as it is, I think, to come out back then, it must be even harder now to tell people that you're transgendered or that you identify one way or the other.
Sure, because you're fighting, that whole fight's being fought again.
Right.
Where
It's
people
not.
don't understand this.
Yeah,
and think they do.
yeah,
And think it's
exactly.
against God and all these different things.
So we are at a very interesting time period right now where we just. I mean, it seems like a really long time ago that gay marriage was legalized, but it wasn't. This has all happened. What was that, like 2 years ago? I'm looking at you. I can't remember, Colin.
For what specifically?
Gay
Gay marriage legalization.
Oh yeah, well the
Less than 2 years ago.
yeah
right?
yeah not even
Yeah, so there's a lot happening, but we are in
Not even a year ago, I
unfortunately
don't think,
people who are transgendered right now who are choosing to identify that to the rest of the world are bearing the brunt of this, unfortunately. And this is I honestly believe this is like that sort of revolution that's happening right now. And it sucks even for people as enlightened as us, because it's hard for me to understand what someone like that is transgender is going through. I can't wrap my head around it because you can't ever put yourself in that person's shoes, right? But I do remember a time where it was hard for me to accept people who were gay. Like, not in I would never go as far as to vandalize someone's car, but when you're young and you're stupid and you're in a small environment of just a bunch of dudes who, you don't really have that outside perspective, you do engage in that kind of language. Remember, like we always talk about, like growing up, all of us thought it was okay to call someone a fag. We just thought it was okay.
I don't like something, so it's gay.
It's gay. You're
I don't
a fag.
mean it's homosexual, but I don't mean that you're a gay person. But like that's just sure, those are synonyms, right? That this is bad and that you're stupid, and you can't. But you don't know that till you meet someone who's able to say that.
Exactly.
And so to do that, and that's the whole thing. We get the benefit of hindsight of being your age and not knowing any gay people, openly gay people. And I remember getting to college and talking that way, and then that's when I'm meeting my first friends who are gay, and like, let's stop, and I'm not mad. I know what you mean, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about why you're doing it. You sit there and you eventually go, oh yeah, right. So to have that conversation and try to dial it back when I was a stupid 15 to 18-year-old or whatever, Jesus, I can only imagine. And that's what gets crazy about me, I feel like, or it gets crazy to me, I should say, is when I'll talk to it sounds weird, rational adults I respect, right? Who then go on to the whole thing of like, but yeah, we cannot be letting these bathrooms, they got to stay out of the bathrooms. I'm like, why? Like, what if they came in and what if they raped these people? I'm like, you're missing the point here. And I don't think you I can understand, because I feel like for them, they're probably where I was with gays, until I met a gay person, whatever. We're lucky enough to work in an industry where we are open and there are all these different things, and I know a bunch of transgendered people through the industry, and I remember the first transgender person I met was years and years and years, and I mean before it was even like a thing where I was ever cognizantly thinking about people being like, I'm going to go change my life, and we met this person and that was going to be their choice, and it was like, oh, we all looked around and were like, cool, congratulations, that's awesome. And it wasn't like a thing, but we were also adults. So I can understand that in my world, that's something that's happening and brand new to me. I can only imagine being a parent of someone my age. No, that's not right. Yeah, that's right. Being a parent with grown children who then you've never met somebody who's trans, and all you do read are the articles, and you do just think of fucking somebody looks like Nick putting on a wig and going into the women's related room and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Like that's not how it is at all, right? There's so many steps in the fucking things people have to go through for this.
I'll always, it is complex, and I'm not going to sit here and say that people who are parents don't have the right to protect their children. I don't have children, so I can't really put myself in their shoes. But I have seen some weird fucking dudes in the men's bathroom. I literally saw a guy masturbating in a bathroom once at the Westfield Mall. I've never gone back into that bathroom. He was sitting at a urinal masturbating.
But that is a hot mall.
It's something. I mean, it gets you walk in, you just get kind of get your juices going.
They got a Mrs. Fields cookies over here. Oh Lord!
I don't actually think they have Mrs. Fields cookies. That's the one drawback of that mall. Great Nordstrom though. But I mean, I've seen fucking perverts in the men's room, right? So I mean, to think that you're now, but for some reason allowing a whole other, like there's a flood of people out there that are just waiting to be like molesters, like, sitting on and then the law passes like, yes, now we can finally. I'm like, dude, no, it's not. That's not. If someone's going to be a pervert, they're going to be a fucking pervert no matter what their gender, what gender they identify with.
But this is the loaded nature of this argument, right? And this is where the bigotry comes in, I think, is that there are some connotations with people that are against trans rights or against people being trans or whatever, transgender, that think it is perverted, that think it is
similar to how people thought being gay was perverted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so to me, the issue is actually quite congruent with gay marriage or just being gay. The argument for me was always, and I'm not saying that you are necessarily gay if you are a transgender or anything, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the argument's the same in my mind. People would often make the argument back in the day, and they don't make it anymore because I think it's biologically proven or whatever, that, being gay is a choice, right? And or being gay is biological, and you see kind of homosexuality even nature, right, with like animals and stuff. And I was like, okay, that's a bad argument, and it doesn't matter because first of all, it's clearly not a choice. I don't know why anyone would choose in 1970 to come out as gay in a fucking society that would want to ruin their lives.
Right.
Any more than I would understand why someone would really want to come out as transgendered in 2016 as just a choice. I'm just going to do it. Everyone's going to fucking be mad about it, and it's a whole culture war around it. But yeah, it's a choice. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't pass the smell test, right? But
even if they do, it's their right to do that.
Exactly. It's a question of liberty. The point is that even if being gay or even if being transgendered were choices and not biological, and I don't believe that they are choices. I believe that they are biological. The biological imperative. I think there's things in people's minds we do not understand. We do not understand the human brain. It is a matter of liberty. And if someone who was born a man, if all they ask of society is like, I just want to be known as she now, and maybe I want to have surgery, or maybe I just want to wear women's clothing and just live my life as a woman, what does it matter to anyone? I don't understand this argument. It's the same argument about, homosexuality and gay marriage and all this kind of stuff, where they're like, if a man wants to be with another man, and everyone's consenting and everything's on the up and up just as in a normal relationship, then what does it matter? It doesn't matter. And I feel the same way about polygamy, and I feel the same way about all these kinds of things where I'm like, if a man wants to marry 5 women and they're all into it, cool.
Jesus, don't do it.
Don't
do it.
So to me,
one's enough.
So to me, it's like, to me, I take it to the nth degree where it's to me, it's the same thing we talk about with prostitution or drug legalization and stuff. I'm like, just let people make their own choices, and if they fuck up in some sort of legal way or hurt or infringe on someone else's rights, then that is the problem that we have to take up as a society. Right. But your problem is not a person who was born a man wanting to identify as a woman or vice versa. And I think it's such a nonsense culture war, yet it is a culture war. And the problem with it is that it's complicated, because gay marriage and just gay and coming out of the closet is pretty straightforward. We all understand that, right? Mm-hmm. It reminds me of, and I don't want to spoil Mad Men, but it reminds me of an early Mad Men episode where the Cuban guy is like, you kind of know that he's gay, but then the art director, but then he like sees him like going into a guy's room in a hotel or something like that, and it just kind of reminded me that it's fiction, but it kind of reminded me that even in the 50s, even in a very dark time in American history in terms of civil rights, whether you're a minority, whether you're gay, obviously, people knew that the shit was going on around them, and a lot of people were keeping each other's secrets and all these kinds of things. So it's not like this is a new thing, a new phenomenon. We always knew that existed. We knew that existed for hundreds of years. And this is now a thing that's accepted in society as it should be, right? I always talk about in 2008 when we voted for gay marriage. People that are not in California, or just not politically cognizant, don't know. Like in 2008, gay marriage was voted down in California. So this was and it lost bad. So this was what was it, Prop 8?
Yeah,
or something like that. And so it's an idea that people have recently, or a majority, a plurality of people have recently gotten their minds around. Yeah, we all know a gay person. We all understand that they're normal, everyday people just like us. We all understand that they just want to live a normal life like anyone else. Their sexuality doesn't differentiate themselves. But with being transgendered, it's simply harder for people to wrap their heads around, right? And there's some verbiage you have to kind of learn. And I think that there's, to be fair, people that want to learn and want to accept are kind of smashed down sometimes by not using the right terminology or whatever. And so I think like a person that's like, calling a woman who's transitioning to a man, she's still like, they're not trying to be offensive. They don't know what to say. Right. So there needs to be some education and some patience as society starts to learn these things. Mm-hmm. I think the bathroom thing is a total cop out, because if a person wants to hurt another person, are they really going to transition into another gender in order to get into a public bathroom in order to hurt them? It doesn't make sense. It's such fucking nonsense.
When you get crazy about it, right, is the people are like, well, I'm not worried about the people who are really transitioning. I'm worried about the people who would fake to come in and do it. And it's like, if that's your concern, that could literally happen right now. Yeah. And the same argument will apply where most people are so, I don't want to start trouble. If a guy walked into a ladies' room dressed as a girl and you were like, I don't think that, I'm talking about right now, and throwing trans out of it. You don't even think that it's a transgender. You just think it's a guy in a dress and a wig. You're like, you probably wouldn't start shit. You would leave, maybe tell somebody, whatever, but that's still the same threat later on. And what's going to be interesting is the school thing right now with the funding or whatever, you're going to get guys who are going to be like, "Father, I'm going to the girls' room. My gender is blah," and like, they're clearly not. And that's when you got to sit there and be like, "No, you're not." And not that there's like some kind of test to it, right? But clearly you're trying to abuse the system, make this into this. Like, what are you fucking doing? Like, why do you have to take it to this fucking twisted thing to make? See, look at my point. I now identify as a female, so I'm going to walk in there.
Yeah, it's absurd. And I think the federal. I'm not much for the federal government overextending its powers over the states, but I do think that by issuing an executive order, it probably was the right thing. Whether or not it has legal teeth, ultimately, if one of the states wanted to challenge it, I don't know. But it reminds me a lot of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, where people would argue against it, not necessarily because they were racist, although some of them were, but because they were like, does the federal government even have the right to do this? And to me, it's like, I believe in a small federal government. The Grover Norquist idea, the federal government should be so small you can drown it in a bathtub. I always really liked that saying. Yet the federal government's
kind of brutal.
Yeah, I love that. I love that saying though. Like, you should know exactly what the federal government's doing. It should be very small.
Yeah.
But I think one of the concise, one of the important functions of the federal government is to say, like, listen, when the states are really fucking up and when something is unconstitutional or inherently bigoted or inherently discriminatory, as I think this is, we have to step in and do something, even if maybe it wouldn't necessarily pass constitutional muster per se. Are you really going to challenge the 1964 Civil Rights Act in the Supreme Court? Because it doesn't. And I feel like this is a similar, maybe not as overstated sort of thing, where it's like the federal government is saying, like, listen, we should probably be on the right side of history of this. The people look at the United States as a backwards place socially in a lot of ways, and I actually disagree. I think it takes us longer to get certain places, but there are shithole places around the world where it's illegal and you can be killed for being gay. There are places in the world where you can't, if you're a woman, you can't show your face, you can't drive a fucking car. We actually have a great, like, as a society, a long-running history of respecting women, and we have a long-running history now of trying to respect minorities. Although not everyone is obviously on board with that. We're a very big country with a lot of racists in it still, but we should probably try to be on board with being less bigoted about homosexuality, about gay marriage, and just people being gay, about these kinds of things with transgendered. And the federal government's basically dragging everyone into the 21st century, being like, let's remember that we should be a beacon and a bastion of freedom and liberty. And that was the point I was trying to make before. Whether being gay, whether being transgendered is a choice or not, and clearly, by the way, it's not a fucking choice. But if you want to make that argument, it doesn't matter.
Well, the counter argument, if anybody, because that you said like that, you think it's been stamped out, it hasn't. That's still a thing. But the counter argument always is that you meet somebody who's like, "Oh, being gay is a choice." I'm like, "Great. When did you choose to be straight?"
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's a biological thing. It's a biological imperative. You can't. It's hard to overcome those things. And if people want to be themselves, and if it makes them more comfortable to be like, I was a boy or I was a man, and but I'm a woman. I'm a woman inside, or whatever. Does that really affect your life any more than the man marrying another man affects your life? Any more than the guy, who chooses to smoke marijuana affects your life or anything like that? It's like, get out of everyone's business and let everyone live their lives. They're not hurting anyone. A person who's transitioning is trying to be a happy, productive member of society. Would you rather them be productive members of society, paying their taxes, working a job, having maybe a family one day? Or would you rather them be depressed and on medication because they can't be themselves and they can't function and they can't work because they're not comfortable being out, or they're not comfortable being themselves? It's an infuriating, nonsense, fucking dark ages argument. And I'm so sick of it. Where, like, we just need to get over these things already. There's nothing righteous about arguing against this stuff. There's nothing righteous about it. You are wrong, and you are going to be on the wrong side of history. As sure as shit. As sure as the people who voted for Prop 8, as sure as the people who did all these things, you will be on the wrong side of history, and you will be looked at as an asshole and a bigot.
For your school, Jordan, back in Iowa, this is all popping off. This is happening in your community. Is it split 50-50? Is there a majority saying this? Why do we care about this? Or we do care about this?
I don't know. Because I was homeschooling. I live fairly close to the school, but from what I saw, it was like unfortunately close to 50-50 or leaning towards the other side.
Sure.
But not that being said, it wasn't like 50-50 being like, I hate transgender people, and then 50-50, then the other half being like,
I love transgender people.
Let me put it in terms that, like, and I don't mean to make light of it, but it's just it's an interesting, funny way to put it, a humorous way to put it. We talk about VR all the time, right? How VR is like one of these things where it's like, it's hard to show what it means to play VR or to be in VR. You have to kind of play it. You have to kind of know it. And to me, it's like, okay, we know transgendered people, right?
We do.
And when I moved, and I was talking about, the gay marriage thing, whatever, I lived with a bunch of gay guys. I mean, I lived in a house of gay guys when I lived here for 3 years. Like, so I got really a firsthand account not only of gay men, but also some of, a couple of the guys had HIV, and a couple of the guys so it was like, I got really like at 22 or 23 years old, I'm like, this is what, this subculture might be about. Let me learn about this. Let me understand this perspective. I never had this perspective before. And it taught me a great deal about that. And I think that the VR reference here is interesting because it's like, the transgender thing doesn't make sense, the transgender thing, but it's like, oh, did you know that your friend Barry that you haven't seen in 5 years is now identifies as a woman? And does that change how your affection for this person and all your memories with this person and all these kinds of things? In other words, I think the hearts and soul kind of thing is going to have to take time with this particular issue, similar to the gay marriage issue and similar to these other issues where it's like, oh, I know a gay man, or I went to a gay wedding ceremony, and it's just totally normal and everyone's happy and they're just trying to be humans and they're just trying to function in society. I think it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of education, and as I said, on the other side, a little bit of patience, just a little bit of patience, and everything's going to be fine. And we always talk about the next civil rights thing. It was, from post-Civil War and Reconstruction into Jim Crow into separate but equal into the Civil Rights Act, and then we went into the 30-year struggle for gay rights. And then we moved into this very sudden and, as Greg said, almost jarring struggle for transgendered rights. And shouldn't we just get to a point where we don't have to fucking deal with any civil rights things anymore, because we just accept that people are going to live their lives as they live them, and as long as they're not hurting anyone else?
Cool, you're human too. Awesome.
Yeah, what is the big deal? That's the question about that. Like, it does not hurt you. It does not affect you. Fuck off.
Right. Well, I think that's where it comes from, right? A lot of people, it comes from a place of fear. It just comes from a place of not
understanding.
Everyone they don't understand. We fear what we don't understand, right? But it's similar to gay marriage. It's one of those things where I'm like, this is all additive to society. It's not going to take anything away from anyone. It's going to get more money, more weddings, more all this. There's nothing bad. It's not going to take anything away from you because you're a straight person who's married. Like, I'm married. I've been married for 4 years. People get married. Gay people get married around me all the time. I don't even know what's happening, right? It has no effect on me whatsoever. Good for them. They're going to hopefully be happy the rest of their lives. This is a little bit more of a complex issue because paranoia plays into it. But at the same time, isn't this sort of kind of like, laws are supposed to be passed to protect people, and I understand how people feel like this might protect, their sons or daughters, or from quote unquote perverts. But at the same time, isn't it also alienating a huge group? Isn't it also sort of telling people who are transgender that you're guilty by association?
Yeah.
And isn't that kind of wrong? Like, shouldn't we not be passing laws that allow that to happen?
No, it's a cop-out move. It is a cop-out move of the fear of not understanding them and then making this boogeyman. Those boogeymen and women already exist. You talk about this creeper in the men's room masturbating.
He was kicking it.
There's weirdos. There's sure as shit weirdo females in the women's restroom being fucking weird. Everybody's like, what the hell's wrong with that person?
Yeah.
Those people are there, and if they wanted to, they can go in the other bathroom and be just as creepy and weird.
Yep.
Like, that's just, it's a fact of life. And the fact that it doesn't happen every day, that some fucking dude runs into the woman's room and kick down the door and take a photo or some shit like that, like, should show you enough of like why we don't need to be fucking terrified that this is finally gonna the one
there's
thing
no
that
reason
was
why that
stopping
would
him.
switch there,
Because now the guy would run in, kick down the door, take the photo, like, what are you fucking doing? I identify as a female. Oh, then okay. Sorry, my apologies.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Got me.
I think the argument just kind of doesn't hold up to me. But
Agreed.
Yeah, let's just, we can only speak from an American-centric kind of point of view, but let's not, as I was saying before, let's not be late on this one. Let's be like on the right side of history immediately with this. It's just the right thing to do, and history is a serious thing, and people will remember those that were on the wrong side. And I'm not saying that you can't have, like I said, this is a complicated issue. It's way more complex than a lot of the social issues we deal with, but it's not that complicated. Like, it takes just a little bit more thought. That's basically it. Like, and then you get to the same logical conclusion, and it's just like, yes, the person you knew who was once a man now wants to identify as a woman. Wow. What a major fucking seismic shift in your life that's really going to ruin everything for you and for society. The same thing with like the sanctity of marriage. Yeah, marriage is so sacred that my parents are divorced, Greg's parents are divorced, Greg is divorced just in this room.
Yeah.
All very sacred institution in America, marriage.
Straight marriages don't fail.
Like, fuck off.
So, Colin, do you think this is actually like one of the last civil rights movements?
You have to assume it will be. Until
then the aliens come.
No, I think it's funny because it goes a lot to like actually the upcoming David Cage game and a lot of other things where it might be AI and stuff like that might be a big one in the far-flung, maybe not in the far-flung future, maybe in the 2030s, 2040s or something like that. But I think that in terms of humanity, like, we're all synthesizing slowly, right? Like the idea that eventually in thousands of years, there will be no races. There will be no, there'll be males and females probably, but we'll all be kind of this homogenous sort of, or more homogenous sort of group. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But I just feel like we're becoming very rapidly more accepting of each other around us. That's why I'm confident that the transgendered struggle will be ended and solved way quicker than the gay struggle, which was solved way quicker than the black issue in America.
You figure part of that's just our access to each other now, right? And the ability to talk to each other, and the ability of, like, you know, I remember, this is fucking history shit for you that you would have to read about. But remember when Real World San Francisco happened, Pedro Zamora was on it, and he was gay and he had AIDS or HIV. He had HIV, and he died right as as the finale aired. And at his funeral, they played a message from President Bill Clinton, who said, like, the power of Pedro is the fact that now no one in America can say they don't know, so they've never met somebody who's gay or has AIDS or HIV or whatever. Like, and that's what it is. It's like, now that there are so many people's struggles in so many avenues and so many ways to talk to them, hear their stories, that's when it all starts. You get to change quicker. Yeah. Still painful, but
and I
quicker.
think that we just go a long way with accepting each other. I mean, like, there's a lot of reasons to judge a person, and there are a lot of reasons to hate a person even, but it shouldn't be based on these, like, very fundamental aspects of a person's being, you know? It's just not appropriate. You can not like a person or hate a person because they did you wrong on an individual level, or they're just assholes. There are plenty of fucking straight assholes in the world, guaranteed. And there are a lot of gay assholes in the world too, I'm sure, you know? But, like, you know, we just have to find better ways to deal with each other on a societal level, and these little constructs and these little homes that we put each other, you know, these little categories that we put each other in. It's like, it's just, eventually these walls are going to break down.
Right.
That's just inevitable. And we should be willing to lead the charge, and it shouldn't be a political issue, even though it is. Everything's a political issue in the United States, but it shouldn't even be a political issue. And it's the same argument I made about gay marriage and all this other kind of stuff, where it's like, if the Republican Party was smart, this would actually be their cause, because it's a cause of liberty. You know, it is liberty. The Democrats are the ones that are supposed to tell you what you're supposed to be doing. The Republicans are supposed to be the ones that tell you that you should be doing whatever you want. But there's some sort of mix-up in the way we look at social issues specifically, where I'm like, none of this makes any sense. Yeah, take your assault rifle. You can have that, and fuck the government and fuck taxes, but you better not marry that gay man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You know? Yeah, low taxes, the government's gonna stay out of your business and out of your bedroom, but you better not be transgendered, you know? And it's like, what the hell is that? Just follow the logical conclusion to the end, and you'll find that it's the same every time.
Yeah, it's just inconsistent.
It's totally inconsistent, and it's wildly annoying to me. You know,
we'll be the change you want to see.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. Be the change you want to see, Nick.
I try to.
That's a good way of putting
Thank
that,
you.
and that's a good reason why everyone's like, well, why do you still identify with that party? I'm like, because I am going to be the change that I want this party to.
I'm going to vote for
Yeah,
you
your
when
party's
you're
gonna
of
blow
age.
up. You'll start the new party.
It might.
If you're 35
Keep
right
going
now,
on this,
I would
be
write
just
you
fine
in.
with Donald Trump in office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can run next time. I can run for the House now.
We're in. It's happening.
I can run for the Senate too.
Can I be your campaign manager?
You have no idea how to run a campaign, so no, I don't.
Neither does Donald Trump, but he is fucking killing it, and
That's
I would
true.
crush it. I would just hire Tim as my co-campaign manager, and you would have an amazing social feed.